Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cassie and I with another political astrology video. And what an eclipse season this is. But first, I want to say next week I am traveling again, but Cassie and I are going to meet in person. So maybe we'll do a quick live stream from New York. But I won't be able to do this kind of video next week again. Um, and so, we'll kind of catch up as we can with all the happenings because there's a lot and we think there's a lot going to happen. But for now, I'm Louise Edington of Cosmic Owl Astrology, and I have a website, louiseeddington.com. I have my new book out, Series in Astrology, and it's getting great reviews on Amazon if you want to check it out. And if you've got the book already, please go and leave me a review. And I'm in the process of rebranding my website. So if you look at it, don't pay attention to how it looks. It looks awful now. Anyway, Cassie.
I'm Kathy Beal. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. I have forecasts for every way you can look at life, every week, every new moon, full moon, month, and my schedule is there. I also have everything cross-posted onto YouTube, the Professional Aquarian channel. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Beal, which has an analysis of the equinox chart up at the moment. And I will endeavor, as I did last week when Louise was otherwise occupied with a different type of work, I put up 15 minutes of going through astrology in the news and then an analysis of the upcoming aspects. I will endeavor to do that next Friday, the 26th. So there you go.
Well, I was engrossed in an astrology conference in Sedona, which was far more. Um, it was just way better than I expected, and learnt some interesting things from that I'm still processing. So I'll be bringing all that in as well. Not today, but over time. But yeah, I do new full moon videos on my YouTube and other things, and interview people as well. And I write on Substack, not daily anymore. I've given that up after 12 years, a
Mm.
Jupiter cycle. And I just do a written week ahead forecast day by day so you can keep going back to it. So, but the news, Kathy.
Right. As always, let me preface this. This is not an exhaustive list of things that have happened. Instead, it's looking at how astrology has been playing out in the news. So we've been having a lunar eclipse in Pisces, fallout from that, the sun conjunct the Virgo South Node, a point of release, and Mercury conjunct the sun. All right, so a literal release of the past. A 200-year-old tree was cut down on the White House grounds. A tree that was there when John Adams was president. This is to make way for a ballroom. The biblical overtones of Pisces. How's this? There's now a gold statue of guess who holding a Bitcoin in DC. I think he's looking at the Capitol building, and the plaque
Oh,
calls him the Bitcoin president. Biblical. All
oh.
right, connect the dots there. The power of words, release, and the concept of words and criticism that are all part of Virgo. Huge First Amendment issues all over the place.
Mhm,
There have been multiple firings all across the
mhm,
country, small level, big level, you name it, starting with newscasters, other people on TV, for any negative or questioning um, of the man who was recently killed, including quoting his own words. MSNBC immediately let someone go for drawing the connection that hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, lead to hateful actions. That got him canned. Vance and Miller immediately blamed the left for the shooting and threatened to crack down on left-leaning groups. Trump has labeled Antifa as a major terrorist organization. I define you to find any organization that is actually Antifa. The FCC
mhm.
forced ABC and Disney to suspend late show host Jimmy Kimmel for some things he said about MAGA going nuts over the apparent identity of the suspect in the killing. Um, FCC forced ABC and Disney to suspend Kimmel's show under threat of revoking ABC's license. And this came
Wow.
about because the owner of 32 ABC affiliates, called Nexstar, had said it wasn't going to air the show, and Nexstar is wanting the FCC to change its long-standing ownership rule that limits the number of stations any one entity can own. It wants it expanded enormously so a merger can go forward. Two other factors in this. Trump had said months ago, after Stephen Colbert's show got canceled, he'd said months ago that Kimmel was next. And
Hmm.
now he's saying the same for other late night hosts. And just keep this in the back of your head.
And the view. He said that's.
Oh, The View, he put that in there too. Oh, how nice. And the
Mhm.
FCC chair, Brendan Carr, the man who did this, is the person who wrote the FCC section in Project 2025. Trump is now saying that broadcast licenses should be pulled for networks who criticize him. Yes, this is a First Amendment problem. Okay, it is.
Mhm.
Um, and it's already being addressed by capitalism on the ground. I would love to know how much business Disney has lost in the last 24 hours from people canceling their cruises and their visits to the parks and the streaming service.
We cancelled the streaming service
So did
immediately.
I.
Hmm.
Tucker Carlson, of all people, is speaking out in defense of the First Amendment and saying that all this is
I
wrong.
know.
Jerry
Hmm.
Greenfield, okay, moving slightly to an adjacent area of these problems. Jerry Greenfield, the co-founder of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, has resigned, saying that the parent company Unilever is silencing the activism that the company has had since its inception.
Wow.
Most recently, the president of Texas A&M University has resigned for his handling over the course of a week. That's how long this went on, of a student arguing with a professor about gender identity literature in a children's lit class.
Oh,
Initially, he refused to fire the professor, but the student filmed her argument with the professor, and the student's video went
oh.
viral. So this took the course of a week. And the book was suggesting that maybe there are more than two genders. This was sufficient for this
Mm.
president to fall on the sword. So he's leaving after 1 week of this being an issue, and the professor is
Mm.
weighing her legal options because he did, after a day, fire her. All right.
Mm.
Trump is suing the New York Times for 15 billion, that's B as in billion, for articles questioning his success. This is a
Mhm.
political move because under existing law, there is nothing to this. It's a move to try to get money. Um,
Mhm.
there are plans for Turning Point America and Mobs for Liberty, and I think another organization, to provide civics instruction to the Department of
Mhm.
Education. Think about that.
Mhm.
Okay, other aspects of all other streams. There's a bill, the initial
Mhm.
wording of HR 5300. Remember that number because you're going to want to call your reps about this. Initial wording of HR 5300, which is still under consideration, gave the Secretary of State the power to revoke the passports of citizens who criticize Israel. There was a
Wow.
blowback, and the language has been tinkered with. There's an amendment that's been introduced, but it doesn't entirely remove the concept of the Secretary of State revoking citizens' passports for their exercise of their First Amendment rights. So you want to look into this, and you want to call your reps.
Mhm.
Ongoing about immigration, the U.S. Neptune is in we have an immigration marker in our chart. These eclipses are working
Mhm.
on that. South Korea is launching a human rights investigation into the treatment of its 250 citizens who were arrested at a Hyundai plant in Georgia despite having legal work
Mm,
visas. They were apparently chained and various other horrific things
mm,
happened to them. Um,
mhm.
ICE has arrested 11 New York reps and local officials who were attempting to gain access to a facility in New York City. You may recall that early in the whole uh, immigration theater, a former Columbia University student named Mahmoud Khalil was one of the first people who had been
Mm,
um, seized, arrested, taken away by ICE because he had participated in a pro-Palestinian rally at Columbia University. He's been in and out. He's had a very, very long journey, and at the moment, ICE now intends to deport him to Syria or Algeria. And
mm.
recently, the radio program This American Life had a long piece about his experience, his family's experience. The episode is called Watch Out for That Tree. It's fascinating. I encourage you to listen to it.
Mhm.
Okay, a few more things. SCOTUS has allowed Trump to remove an FTC commissioner. They said, sure, he can do that. In the meantime, an appeals court has said Lisa Cook, who Trump tried to fire from the Federal Reserve Board, could stay in her
Mm,
job, but with SCOTUS saying he could boot an FTC commissioner, the emergency appeal that Trump has filed to SCOTUS, I'm not holding my breath. But
mm.
more about her. So, a mortgage fraud case was filed against her in the Eastern
Oh,
District of Virginia about a home that they said she claimed was her residence, and she provided documentation that she had correctly shown that it was a vacation home, not her primary
mhm.
residence. So this morning, Trump is talking about firing the U.S. attorney for that district for failing to find evidence against her. Moving on. All right. In the health aspect of Virgo, RFK Jr. has announced that there's a crackdown coming on the organ donor system, and he's fired one of the 55 organizations with federal contracts. It's called Life Alliance Organ Recovery Agency. Watch this space. There's some suspicion that there's an
Mm.
attempt to privatize the organ donor system.
Oh,
Um, 7 states have formed the Northeast Public Health Collaborative: Connecticut,
mm,
Maine, Massachusetts, New Jersey, go New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. So in the Northeast, something's happening that's like what's happened on the Pacific
mm.
Northwest. All right, in the ongoing
Oh,
saga of the yes, Louise.
aren't they reviewing the childhood vaccine schedule as well?
Oh yeah, that's so
Yeah.
complicated. And there's been
Yeah. Oh, we don't need to go into it. I
right, but
just,
that's an issue, an
yeah,
ongoing issue, and the
yeah.
CDC head who was fired has been talking to Congress about the dangers that all this is exposing us
Hmm.
to.
Yeah.
Okay. In the ongoing issue of the files, the House Oversight Committee released some of
Hmm.
the documents that it received from Epstein's estate.
Mm.
Um, the FBI director was grilled by both the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. The Senate one ended in screaming matches on both sides. Um, the House Judiciary Committee blocked a motion to subpoena the Treasury Secretary for records relating to $1.5 billion in transactions banks had flagged as related to Epstein's sex trafficking ring.
Mm.
And cleansing the palate here at the end, Trump's UK visit began with an artist group called Led by Donkeys, projecting a video onto Windsor Castle while he was there, while he was inside, with narrated photos and video and a timeline of his dealings with Epstein. If Led by Donkeys, there is an arts activism site called abbetuck.com, ABBETUCK.com, that has the video posted
Hmm.
there. If you haven't seen it, I highly you'll just go, how could anybody? Well, anyway, I'm
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now to the astrology.
Oh, yeah. What a week. Oh, and Joe Rogan has started to criticize Trump on his podcast, though. That's good. he looked at the birthday book thing and was just basically kind of taking the piss about it. But anyway, uh, that's pretty huge then, because his podcast is huge. You might not like him, but it's huge. So I find him one of those weird people. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I can't stand him. But anyway, the aspects, I am going to quickly point out them. I'm going to try not to take too long to go through them because, as we've mentioned, Kathy and I have both done videos about this new moon solar eclipse where a lot of the aspects are contained. But this is where we started early this morning with this lunar occultation of Venus and Mercury forming this air grand trine with Uranus and Pluto that is an ongoing air grand trine that keeps, as planets move into Libra, it keeps activating them, but it also actually makes two kites. We've talked about kites before, one pointing at Neptune in Aries and one currently pointing at Vesta in Sag. And I left that in because Vesta does represent the state in many ways. And it's all fire and air, so it's very kind of like dynamic and very lots of hot air and lots of, but also kind of lots of passion and people getting very fired up. But this lunar occultation, lunar occultations happen of Venus. Yes, sometimes one a year, sometimes two a year, some years none. But I could not find another one that is at the anaretic last degree of a sign, let alone at the very last minute. And the reason why I think this one is so significant is because of what's going on in the world, but also because we have an eclipse at the anaretic degree of Virgo, and Mars will be at the anaretic degree of Libra on the eclipse as well. And the anaretic degree is a kind of threshold degree. It's the finishing degree. It's the endings before moving into something else. There's a lot of endings coming. Do you want to add anything to where we start?
Well, also this
Mm.
this has to do with power and celebrity and
Mm-hmm.
royalty and
Mm-hmm.
what we have valued.
Leaders,
Leaders,
leaders too.
right, right, and so
Yeah.
there's this ongoing flow of information that is shocking, and it's about corruption, and this has been happening since August. This concept of the Grand
Mm-hmm.
Trine, and when you have that kind of flow, you always look for a middle point to bring it down so that it doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
people psycho. And in this case,
Mm-hmm.
one of one of the points has to do with deception and idealism
Mm-hmm.
and beliefs and what do we mean and what do we believe?
Neptune.
That's Neptune. And this is not going
But I
away.
would say Sagittarius is also about truth and belief. So Vesta's there too. So, yeah.
There's a real strong what is real, what is real, what is real.
Mm, mm,
And this isn't going away because this particular configuration with the players
mm,
changing just a tiny bit happens
mm-hmm,
again this month. It's going to happen a couple of times again next month, but not in air. And it will once. It
mm-hmm,
this is something this stuff is not going away. It is not going away.
no,
I don't care what is happening out in the world. Uh, Everything just adds to it and adds
mm,
fuel to the fire. And the
mm-hmm,
important thing to know about this, what's going on with Venus and the moon, is this is
mm,
exactly on Trump's ascendant. So
ascendant.
this is a turning point moment for him.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what an occultation is, it's the moon passing in front of the planet or the other object so that the planet is literally hidden from us. Occult means hidden, and it operates like an eclipse. It's a reset. Secrets come to light as well, and having it at the very last minute is just astounding to my mind. So within minutes of the occultation this morning, the moon moved into Virgo. We're heading in towards this Virgo new moon eclipse, and then Venus moved into Virgo. So the Virgo energy instantly got stronger. And And that's, to my mind, more about, you know, because it's a Mercury guided sign and it's Virgo and it's about doing the right thing and meaning, but it's also on the South Node about information coming to light in
Hmm.
many ways. Yeah,
Details.
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 Yeah. And people seeing the details. I won't go into that anymore, but I'm sure you can all get the idea. So, September the 20th, tomorrow, Venus, right away, she's moved into Virgo. She makes a quincunx or inconjunct to Neptune and starts to quincunx, inconjunct Pluto, making one of the fingers of destiny, the yod, the finger of fate. You'll see that we have another one forming to Mars, and there's one on the eclipse that we'll look at as well. But overall, when Kathy and I talked about this before, I said I found it interesting that we have the very personal planets, the moon, the sun, Venus and Mars, women and men, the masculine, the feminine, action and values, and they're all having yards pointing at them, fingers of destiny in so many ways. And it's all involving the big heavy hitter outer planets that are changing signs as well. So, I kind of went into great detail about these yods on my eclipse video, but when we look at the eclipse, I'll point out one that's really big because it's what's called a boomerang yod, and it's pointing at Saturn and then boomerangs right back to the eclipse. So these bring change. So I'll kind of sum up all of those at the end, if you like, unless you want to say anything right now.
The one thing I want to point out, when there's
Mhm.
this finger of God, it's like something is shoving your focus on
Oh, definitely.
an area,
Yeah.
and each of
Hmm.
these, because of where the outer planets are, they're all well, Saturn has moved,
Hmm.
but the
Mm.
outermost planets are hovering at the very beginning of their signs. So
Yeah.
when a planet changes signs and ends up being the recipient of this finger of destiny or yod, an outer planet also slams it and says,
Hmm.
and I really mean it, or there will be change. And
Hmm.
and it's one of the two planets that represent change. This one
Hmm.
on the 20th has something shocking, information that jolts people's experiences or their perceptions. Some of the others
Hmm.
have Pluto, which has to do with the power
Oh,
structures and
I
secret.
was going to I'll mention those next. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so I just want
yeah.
to point out that's
So,
a theme of these
mm,
figures of fate
hmm.
going through that
Hmm.
there's something about the changing conditions
Mm,
that's forcing. So there is a
mm,
discomfort, and you can't just slide back into, oh, I'm going to
no,
stick my head under my pillow. No, no.
no, no. And they're very uncomfortable, these aspects, especially when this many. So I've started with the Venus quincunx to Neptune, then Mars quincunxes Saturn right before as he's finishing his journey in Libra. And just one other, because the Venus star point, I work with that, and that's being activated over and over again. Mars is going to be at the first Venus star point in Libra, on the position of it, that was in October the 22nd, 2022. So, because they move backwards through the signs. So, there's big endings, big shifts. All these are activating all these points and kind of pushing us as well to make these adjustments, to take our agency and kind of play our part and take a stand, really. So over and over. But anyway, also on 20th, Venus squares Uranus. So yeah, that's the shock and surprise as well. I will add Sedna's there as well, no, that's 12, almost 12,000 year cycle. Venus then quincunxes Pluto, but really they're kind of all happening together, right? Then on September the 21st, we have the Sun opposing Saturn right before the solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo, with Mars at 29 degrees Libra. So more anaretic threshold, liminal, dying degree, they used to call it as well. They call it all kinds of words like that. It's definitely endings. Things are ending and new things are going to start. But we're getting that in so many ways. Then on the 20th, and we'll look at the eclipse chart with a couple of charts. But then on September the 22nd, Mars enters Scorpio, and Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. I always think of it as like psychic surgery. Mars like cuts really deep into Scorpio, and reveals secrets quite often. Over a lot of recent years, if you think of like the Me Too um, movement and Harvey Weinstein and things like that, when a big planet has traveled through Scorpio, there's been a lot revealed about power and manipulation and sexual issues and things like that. And so, but just to say, after Mars moves into Scorpio on the 22nd, the very next day, the moon will move in, and Haumea is here as well. We've got this massive lineup at the start of Scorpio, but I'll look at that when we get there. But that's a heavy, big start to Mars in Scorpio. But on that day as well, before I move on, Mercury makes an unbroken flow aspect to Pallas Athena in Aquarius. And the moon's right there as well at the time. The moon's activating all these things after the eclipse. So, right? So, and, Mercury is moving, starting to move out from under the beams of the sun, where it's been behind the sun from our perspective. As the moon gains light after the eclipse, there's the news cycle is going to be nuts, I think. But I will mention that I'm going to talk about quite a few aspects to Pallas Athena, because Pallas Athena is just about to move back to 6 Aquarius, where incidentally she will stay, because that's where she stations direct, and that's the south node of the USA.
Before you leave this date,
Mm.
this is
Mm-hmm.
the equinox.
Oh yes, I've got that on my list.
Oh,
And we
okay.
have the equinox. Yes,
Okay.
we've got but I nearly moved on because I got so off in the other
Right.
things. It's the equinox as well. Equal day, equal night. Turning of the seasons. Another turning of the wheel, the sacred hoop, if you like. So, along with all these other changes. So, thanks for reminding me. September 23rd, Mars is now quincunx to Neptune. Mars was quincunx Saturn before. But I really kind of see these things as working together, because Neptune and Saturn are still moving quite close together. So that's kind of adding to these fingers of fate, fingers of destiny. Mars and Venus are still speaking to each other, I think, in kind of this sextile aspect, not breaking up yet, in my opinion. And the Sun opposes Neptune and trines Uranus on the 23rd. More things coming to light around deception, more, but also I think some of it will be more shock and awe news about what the administration are doing, like all the things that Kathy lists, right? So, anything more on that one?
I would suggest that the fact that Venus and Mars are in a companionable relationship means more information about what happened to women's bodies, because Mars is in the sign of money and power and sexuality, and Venus is in Virgo. So this is another angle from which astrologically this ongoing issue will be kept in the discussion. They can try to bury it. It's not going away.
It is not. 24th, another big day. God, it's a big few days, honestly. After this, as we move away from the eclipse, I think we're going into a lot of endings and finishings. But on the 24th, the sun is moved into Libra and starts to aspect all of these energies. So now we have the air grand trine to Uranus and Pluto from the sun, and still pointing at Neptune, that fire and air kite energy again and again. And Mars makes another quincunx aspect of adjustment to Uranus while the moon is there, and Haumea is there. She's regeneration, by the way. So, that, and Sedna's. You can't make this stuff up. I'm not going to go into what they all mean, but just this is just huge. Adjustments. But it's so uncomfortable because things will keep coming to light, and I feel like we are meant to pay attention and to let it kind of, get us fired up. Like Kathy said, don't go back to sleep, have a rest, do your self-care, but don't go back to sleep. But also on the 24th, Mars, there with the moon, squares Pluto exactly. And this is a cycle that began with their conjunction February the 14th, 2024 at 0 Aquarius. 0 Aquarius is a really hot degree. It's where Saturn and Jupiter met at the end of 2021, wasn't it? On the solstice, yeah. And that was what's called the Great Mutation of all Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions, going to be in air signs for 200 years. But we also had many other conjunctions there, including Mars-Venus, who are now speaking to each other again as well. And Venus is the faster moving, so Venus is moving towards Mars. But it's also this Mars square Pluto is what's called the closing square of that cycle that began then. But we had the oppositions of Mars and Pluto. First was November the 3rd last year. Second was January the 3rd this year. And the third was April the 26th this year. We've talked about those oppositions a lot. So, and the moon's there as well, which in mundane astrology is really the people, right? So, because moon's right there with them on the square as Mars moves towards Pluto. This is another endings, crossroads. Any more on that?
This is the day that Kamala Harris's book tour is scheduled to launch. There have been all kinds of, well, anyway. Well, that's a pretty, and Mars squaring Pluto can be very violent. Although we've lived through a lot of Mars-Pluto squares where nothing physical happened. The fact that this is occurring and reactivating issues involving the election and the certification mark this time as that being addressing it, attacking it, researching it, being a very hot issue next week. Election Truth Alliance should have been on my list. Has found a huge stash of votes that just didn't get counted in a different place in Pennsylvania. So, and I think this is much more than Kamala is going to be talking about in her book about her campaign. This is bigger than that. That's a piece of it. There is a woman that's a factor in it, but next week is going to bring it's going to have a conversation that is very hot and pointed and forced because of Mars being as in this ongoing finger of fate. People are going to be waking up and going to be dealing with it, and some people are probably not going to be too happy in either direction because of this topic.
And to add to that, kind of, more information coming to light on the 24th, Mercury in Libra, now I would say is out from under the beams of the sun on the aspect. opposes Ceres, which is retrograde in Aries. Now, Mercury and Ceres kind of have this boundary crosser kind of energy. I talk about it in my book, but also this is activating some other things. Mercury and Ceres had three unbroken flow trine aspects when Mercury was retrograde in Leo, but also Ceres is retrograding back to 2 Aries in November 21st. She stations direct. That's the exact point of the Venus star point from March the 22nd this year. And Venus, Ceres, and Pluto all met at 0 Aquarius. I talked about that degree already on December the 7th last year. So these cycles are kind of speaking everything, kind of is speaking to all these hot degree cycles in so many ways. Don't get too stuck on where that's going. I just want to mention don't not pay attention to Ceres, but Mercury opposing Ceres suggests more things coming to light as well, right? So, and September the 25th, the only aspect I will mention there is Venus, before she goes to 7 degrees, makes that quincunx, another uncomfortable, itch you can't scratch aspect, to Pallas Athena, who is now at 6 degrees Aquarius, the south node of the USA, and she's going to not move off that degree. So, and on September the 28th, Venus will then quincunx Ceres. So I kind of already mentioned that. So these things are kind of really activating each other over and over. And Mercury will quincunx the north node, which is still at the degree it sits at right through the eclipses, because I use the true calculation. So that's where we're headed towards. More information coming to light. The last day I'm going to mention is, I didn't actually kind of move this on enough, but that's all right. September the 29th, Sun gets to 6 Libra and makes that aspect, that unbroken flow aspect to Pallas Athena. More stuff, air, information, voice, speaking, justice, all things. The news cycle is going to be insane, I think, with the air grand trine and the kites, and then these aspects to Pallas Athena, who really is wise justice. She's justice, for so many reasons. Yeah. Any final thoughts on that?
Well, the one thing I want to assure everybody, this is we can't get stuck with this.
Oh.
We cannot get stuck. And B, as uncomfortable as each of us is individually, the same is true of the people who are doing the acts that you're objecting to, right? Nobody can get comfortable. No one can just sit back and go, okay, now we've done it.
No.
This is incredibly dynamic, and it's moving perpetually to closing down, closing down, closing down, closing down. And
Yeah.
just pick your battles and get out of the line of fire of things. And we cannot stress enough. Meditate, get quiet, get calm, do things that make your inner child feel much, much better. We haven't mentioned at all Jupiter. Jupiter is in 2/3 of the way through the sign of Cancer, which is very, very much about taking care of yourself. Have your little teddy bear with you. I know people who have emotional support stuffed dragons, whatever. You're it's critical for you to be able to go out in the world and do what you need to do, for you to periodically pull back and dump out all of this and get calm. And I will repeat, I have a free class 1 hour talk in the shop at my site, Reclaiming Your Energy, that will
Mm.
teach you all kinds of things you can do to get this stuff out of you because we're going into a wind tunnel and it's only going to be more chaotic next week. But as my
It is.
as my beloved torts professor used to say in my first semester in law school, out of chaos and confusion comes clarity.
Yes. And that's one of the fellow attendees at the Astro conference I went to said this feels like you're in a washing machine right now.
Yeah.
I thought that was a brilliant description. Yeah. So the old, um, top loaders, I think. It feels like you're in one of those right now. But, just to kind of go to all those quincunxes and fingers of destiny and yods and all that, it really is about tension building until a release is found overall. But it's a real thing saying this is what you must work with. And it's like things are converging, and it's very uncomfortable, but it's potentially transformative because we're at this major destiny point with all of them. So yeah, so just lean in, but do all your self-care as well. Anyway, so some charts. So we were kind of a little bit reluctant to look at this, but we're going to because on September the 10th in my state there was a shooting that has kind of it's such an eclipse event, we could not ignore it. Okay, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. No opinions about him. This is about how the astrology is playing out and why this has kind of ramped up everything that's happening in the world in so many ways. And it's almost like he was just a perfect player in this storm, right? Okay. So that's how we're seeing it. So please, in the comments, I don't want to hear your opinions about him or anything. We all have our opinions, right? This is just about the astrology. So I'm going to hang on a second, just get his chart up. First of all, we do not have a time of birth, so this is his chart. And round the outside, this was the time of the shot was fired in Aurum, Utah, which is so close to me. And at that moment in time, incidentally, by the way, did you know that 22 Libra is the midpoint of the Sun and Jupiter? Mars was the midpoint of his Sun and Jupiter. But look at this too. The Sun, so this was right after that total blood red moon lunar eclipse, and the Sun was 3 minutes from that south node, which the last video we did, I referred to that as things going down the drain, swirling down the drain. You really cannot make that up. I mean, there's lots of other aspects. We don't need to really go into them, to be quite honest. But it was a perfect kind of eclipse moment, more because of this Sun conjunct the South Node. And I will mention one aspect on that, because this is almost an exact trine, unbroken flow aspect to his natal, almost exact by 5 minutes, Uranus Neptune conjunction, as we have a Uranus Neptune sextile ongoing right now. And these planets are big change bringers, as we know. And it's opposing Jupiter at the time, talking of Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer. So, this event was going to be a big shift, even if you just look at the chart without his chart. But it kind of brought him into play as the player in this big shift we're going through. Do you want to add anything else to
What
that?
I'll add is that Uranus and Neptune are in his solar house of communication.
Hmm.
Uranus can shake things up, it can disrupt the
Hmm.
status quo, and Neptune can
Hmm.
be ideological. He
Hmm.
had one streak that was very Bible based or Christian based. And then there
Hmm.
were other things that he did or said that weren't
Hmm.
quite that way. And and this has made him an inspirational character, almost like this is the
Hmm.
glamour. This is why he is standing
Yeah,
out so much, even if you didn't know about him before.
before.
And Jupiter
Mm.
expands everything it touches, so it's making this huge. The whole situation, issue, whatever, huge.
Oh, one other thing I will mention is that the moon in mundane astrology, as we mentioned, is the people. That it was at almost 29 degrees Aries on the moment of the shooting, and that's opposing where Mars is on the eclipse this coming weekend. So I am going to move to the time of his memorial or funeral, which is going to be a major affair. It's scheduled to start at 11 a.m. in Glendale, Arizona on September the 20th, which is right before this new moon eclipse is coming up. And remember where the moon was on the shooting? It was at 2858 Aries. Mars will be at 2856 Libra at the start of it. And of course, the moon was at the time of the shooting was in Mars' own sign, and so it was a violent event. No matter what you think of it, and there's going to be some major revisiting of this energy at this memorial all round. But look where the sun is at that point as well, on his Venus.
I have no idea what to make of that.
I know. Well, there's a lot of talk that he was talking really about release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. It's like women, Venus,
Mm.
and the eclipse is coming up at 29 degrees of Virgo the next day. Hmm.
Well, so the sun will also be in an adjustment aspect to Vesta in his chart, 28,
Yes,
which is
yes.
on the US moon. So
Hmm.
there's a connection to the direction and the fate of this country and the issue with those women.
There is, yeah. And I'm not going to give my theories, but I'm just going to stick with the facts. I will let people to make their own interpretation. But I actually wasn't going to talk about Pholus too much, but Pholus is the lid comes off. I feel like it's the cause and effect, Pandora's box energy. Venus will be on Pholus at that point as well. Now, whether that will happen at the memorial, maybe not, but I think the attention on it is going to bring more things to light.
Right.
Um, mhm. And how it relates to his assassination, shooting, murder, whatever you want to call it. So he is such a key player in this ramping up of all this energy, and that's really, I think, all I want to say about it astrologically.
Well, and Jupiter is squaring his sun exactly. So
Mm,
that's also pushing him more and more and more into the public eye.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe how many people said they'd never heard of him. But, I guess it's understandable. But going back to all those fingers of destiny and quincunxes, we said you have to pay attention to this. He's been brought into the limelight for a reason, I think. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yep,
Hmm. So, USA chart, right? And
right. And
and
that.
the
Okay.
eclipse, yeah. I just
Sure.
don't want to spend too long on that chart, really,
No,
particularly.
just can you put the eclipse in?
Oh,
The
I'm just about to. Well, with
okay,
his chart or with
with the USA
this.
chart.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was just getting the
Here we
eclipse
go.
chart up. There we go.
Excellent.
hmm So here's the eclipse on the south node. Remember, I said the eclipse is at the anaretic degree. Mars will be at the anaretic degree. Okay, so we've got all that going on. Jupiter in Cancer coming up to the USA's Mercury in the eighth house of shared resources, but also secrets. Mercury, news. Um, Remember, I said Pallas Athena is sitting on the south node of the USA and will not move off there for ages. And but look at Pholus, cause and effect. Pandora's box, also at 6 degrees Aquarius. And if you listen back to those aspects, that degree is being aspected by many things this week. It's also another hot degree in many ways. There's lots more I could say, but
Well,
keep
to
going.
clarify about the South Node, this is the South Node is like what we came in with, the concept
hmm
of all the things about the nation of nations and all that,
hmm
and the high ideals and the
hmm
progressivism and stuff. But what we're supposed to move toward is actually modeling leadership, modeling
hmm
it with the 6 degree Leo North Node. So there are things that are happening that are bringing to light what
mm
we've done in the past and what's really been going on there. And since you bring
hmm
up cause and effect, how fascinating that cause and effect is sitting on top of the U.S. heiress.
I saw that. But to go back to what Kathy was saying about the nodes as well, in some ways, yes, the South Node is what we came in with, but often it's shows us how we not um, lived up to that promise as well. And we go to the kind of North Node to come back to the promise of the South Node, which is really being for all the people in
For
many
all the
ways.
people.
And I've mentioned Tad Sturmer before, but there's other people who are saying the system was made and built for those founding fathers. So if I hear one more Democrat going, the founding fathers would roll in their graves, I don't think they would actually. I think this is kind of, and yes, they were of their time and things like that, but overall, the Constitution and all the things, the founding of the USA, which is what the USA Sibley chart is, was formed for a certain group of people. And so we're learning that maybe we need to rethink some of it. Yeah.
I'm looking at all the 8 degrees and trying to make sense of that.
I know it's nuts, isn't it? Yeah, with Ceres there as well. And because I just wrote the book on Ceres, and she's coming into prominence for so many reasons, and there's all those aspects. Ceres is needs met and unmet, and in Pisces it's always been a bit a bit illusory, I would say, that this country was built to meet everybody's needs. And there she is at 8 degrees, getting all these aspects as well. So more revealing.
Yeah, windows opening, Pholus opening windows to cause and effect, and Pholus is in an adjustment aspect with uh our Uranus. So
hmm
this is another
Yeah.
way of saying we're just gonna be kind of rickety for a while.
Yeah, and it is revolutionary. All these aspects are quite revolutionary, but that before everybody goes, oh my God, people keep saying we're going into civil war. I think we've said it before. We think we're really already in it. It's more a war of ideas and ideals and kind of technical kind of war, if you like, more than um, Oh, there has been some violence, clearly, but I don't think it's going to be a civil war the way the last civil war was, in my opinion. What about you? What about your thoughts
Oh,
on that?
there's definitely an information war that's been going on, and that's been international as well for some time.
Oh, yes,
So
it has.
we're in the thick of it. We know, we see what it is. It's messing with our concept of reality. And if
Hmm.
you want to recast your life as, okay, life during wartime, you can't go at full tilt all the time. You have to hand things
No.
off, back and forth, trading things off, building community, finding the safe places, finding the
Hmm.
nets. And actually, what I want to leave everybody with is the potential of, for me, the potential of that Virgo, 29-degree Virgo solar eclipse. And that
Mm.
is to become hyper vigilant about where your thoughts are going and
Yes.
remembering that thoughts carry energy, words carry energy, and
Hmm.
you can really underscore, accentuate, emphasize, call in
Mm.
more of the negativity if that's all you're talking about or thinking about. So, as much as possible, train your thinking
Hmm.
to look at what kind of world
We
works
want to
for
live
me.
in.
Yeah, how to
Hmm.
make this better. Because Virgo is, I call it the fix it
Hmm.
zone. It's the, everything's an improvement project there. And with it at
And
29 degrees, this is a maximum fix it. And this is the only forward facing
mm,
event in the Virgo lunar eclipses from last September into
mhm,
February of 2027. All of the rest of them are lunar eclipses, wrapping things up. This one, even though it's shooting forward, does have a lot of wrapping things up attached to it, but the
mhm,
energy of the eclipse is the future.
mm.
So think of it as
I
a new moon to like the thousandth
mm.
power.
I would like to add a couple more finishing things with this eclipse. We've talked a lot about quincunxes and finger of eight. It's quincunx, the US moon. Moon, the people in Aquarius, the sign of the future, but also like how can we set intention? Because we're being told we have to do things differently, basically. And so, for the good of all the people, it's also in an unbroken flow trying to Pluto in the second house. So, we'll be looking at really the deepest shadow of where we're at the moment. But don't sink into it. Do what Kathy said. Make an adjustment and think about what is ending, because so many things are ending. Things are being purged individually and collectively, and we can begin to set intention to choose what we want this world to look like, as Kathy said. So yeah.
Yep.
So do the right thing. Don't sit and watch hours and hours of talking heads on the news with their opinions and things. There's a lot we are not seeing, I think, at the moment. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree.
And a lot of people are seeing things in reels, TikTok, and all that kind of thing like that. Some of that will have an essence of truth. It's up to you to kind of filter out what brings you down and kind of just think forward thinking, like Kathy said, I think so. Hmm.
Mhm. Be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. And actually,
Hmm.
Virgo's all about the details. So if you do any kind
Hmm.
of new moon ritual, make it, write it down, make a to-do list, make
Mm.
a list and make it as granular as you want in the
Yes.
positives, not in the
Hmm.
negatives.
Yes. And do it about everything. So Virgo is also a sign of wholeness, at its highest, mind, body, and spirit, and doing meaningful and right work in the world. So kind of get those themes in your head. So
Mhm.
okay, so it's that's it for this week. A reminder that I will be traveling again next weekend. I'm a bit all over the place with all the travel. but that's okay. And hopefully we'll find time to do a quick live, but we probably won't look at all these charts. So, because I
Nope.
am only away for 2 nights. So it's a flying visit. More music for me, not astrology this time. This is music. A punk rock festival. There you go. So goodbye from me and from Kathy.
Goodbye.
Bye.